This is Akashvani, Delhi. Good evening and welcome to Science Talk.
My name is Professor Nandula Raghuram, a crop biotechnologist specializing in fertilizer nitrogen use efficiency in rice. I come from the Center for Sustainable Nitrogen Nutrient Management, School of Biotechnology, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi. I have been associated with the United Nations Environment Program, Global Partnership on Nutrient Management, Sustainable India Trust, World Bank and the International Nitrogen Initiative, as well as been a member of the Interministerial National Nitrogen Steering Committee of the Govt of India. Today I am talking to you about nitrogen pollution and triple planetary crisis. What is this triple planetary crisis and what is the role and contribution of nitrogen pollution to it? Most of us think that climate change is the only threat to our survival on planet Earth, or that carbon emissions are the only cause of it. The reality is much worse and more complex. Over the last few decades, scientists have been alerting for quite some time, and now even the United Nations has recognized that we have a triple planetary crisis to deal with. These are pollution, both air and water pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss. Now, these three were seen earlier as independent global environmental issues, but now they are recognized to have many serious, mutually interactive effects which can worsen certain aspects of each of them or all of them together. Scientists also knew all along that carbon dioxide is only one among many greenhouse gases that can cause global warming and climate change, such as methane, nitrous oxide, and many others. But they're often ignored, even though nitrous oxide has 270 times higher global warming potential than carbon dioxide. As for the simplicity of understanding and simplifying science communication, all the greenhouse gases are expressed as carbon dioxide equivalents. Climate change is not the only effect of air pollution due to carbon and nitrogen compounds and other greenhouse gases. There is also water pollution due to such compounds and biodiversity loss caused due to the adverse health impacts of these pollutants, or the impact that global warming itself has on humans, plants, animals, and the entire biological diversity. For example, the growth of algae due to excess nitrogenous or other nutrients in water bodies leads to the death of fish or emergence of toxic algal blooms. Similarly, lichens are very sensitive to air pollution, while corals are sensitive to global warming and water pollution, and some invasive species may grow when some pollutants act as nutrients. In other words, some pollutants are nutrients in the wrong place. The degradation of land and water due to pollution adversely affects their capacity to act as carbon sinks to mitigate climate change. For example, the growth of forests or other photosynthesizing organisms in water bodies. These interactive effects are at the heart of what we now understand as the triple planetary crisis that must be addressed together and not ignored or pampered at the cost of one another. If we focus only on climate change, ignoring air, water pollution or biodiversity, our success will be limited, and vice versa. Nitrogenous compounds are at the heart of this triple planetary crisis, as well as in our ability to solve it, or at least to deal with it. While 78% of all the air we breathe is nitrogen gas, it is harmless and fairly unreactive. But it is the oxidized or reduced forms of nitrogen, compounded forms of nitrogen, that are highly reactive and are a matter of concern for us. Their accumulation in our environment and in nature was prevented by natural biological processes called nitrification, which generates reactive nitrogen compounds, and denitrification, which reconverts reactive nitrogen compounds back to nitrogen gas. In other words, nitrification and denitrification balance each other to prevent the accumulation of reactive nitrogen compounds in our environment and therefore prevent the harm that they cause to us. But human interventions through agriculture and later industry have altered this balance between nitrification and denitrification, so much so that today the global nitrification has twice exceeded natural denitrification, and therefore we have a serious problem of nitrogen pollution on hand. Nitrogenous compounds from fertilizers, manures, urine and sewage cause air pollution as ammonia or nitrous oxide. Ammonia contributes heavily to particulate matter pollution like PM2.5, PM5 and others. By combining with nitrogen dioxide or nitric oxide, these are compounds emitted from burning fuel or residue such as municipal residue or crop residue for power, transport, industry or waste disposal. India has the largest number of the world's most polluted cities in terms of particulate matter PM2.5, causing over 1 million deaths per year or up to 7% of all deaths worldwide according to the World Health Organization. Similarly, in water, nitrates and ammonical compounds are a serious problem in most of the Indian states, both in groundwater and surface water bodies. When consumed by infants, such water can cause fatal blue baby syndrome. Nitrogenous water pollution is also mainly caused by excessive or improper use of fertilizers or poor management of manure, urine, domestic sewage, and even human excreta. The Indian nitrogen assessment done in 2017 and updated recently has revealed that agriculture accounts for 86% of all ammonia emissions in the Indian environment and 78% of all nitrous oxide loss to air pollution. Whereas power, transport and other industries account for nearly 90% of all NOx pollution in the Indian environment. The worst part is that NOx from industry and transport and the ammonia from agriculture combine together to form particulate matter that is choking our country. All these compounds also have direct and indirect effects on climate change and global warming, apart from harming our health and biodiversity. This is how nitrogen is at the heart of the triple planetary crisis. The good news is that once Indian scientists recognized and quantified the Indian nitrogen pollution, as very few other countries did in the whole world, the Indian government took it to the world stage. India led the first ever United Nations Environment Programme resolution on sustainable nitrogen management in the 4th UN Environment Assembly in 2019, and now India co-chairs the UNEP Working Group on Nitrogen for its implementation globally. Indian nitrogen scientists are also co-leading the ongoing global nitrogen assessment to be published later this year. These efforts help Indian domestic actions and intergovernmental cooperation for various evidence-based actions to mitigate the role of nitrogen pollution in the triple planetary crisis. Now, a few minutes on how we can control nitrogen pollution. Any effort to move away from fossil fuels to renewable fuels for electricity, transport and industry will also save NOx emissions apart from carbon emissions. The emerging focus on green hydrogen and green ammonia in the energy sector can play a major role in the transition towards net zero greenhouse gas emissions both in the industrial and agriculture sectors. In fact, sustainable nitrogen management can offer some pathways to low carbon economy and make them faster, cheaper or less painful to the most vulnerable and therefore ensure just transition. As a champion of climate justice, India can demonstrate this through sustainable nitrogen management. In agriculture, our excessive dependence on nitrogenous fertilizers, mainly urea, and the low fertilizer use efficiency of crops is the main cause of nitrogenous pollution to air and water. Prior to Green Revolution, the crop nutrition needs for agriculture, especially nitrogen, was mainly met by pulses, legumes, and leguminous oil seeds like sesame and groundnut. These crops had the natural capacity for biological nitrogen fixation or nitrogen fixation from air, and the plant residue left behind after harvest contained enough nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and other crop nutrients for the next cereal or any other non-legume crops. This was the basis for crop rotations. This was further supplemented by manure and urine from the cattle used for ploughing or grazing. While Green Revolution replaced these methods and increased the production of cereals manyfold, it destroyed legume-based crop rotations and enhanced fertilizer dependence. As the production of pulses, legumes and leguminous oil seeds stagnated or declined. Legumes also used to be the most affordable source of protein in our country, which is, by the way, having the largest population of people who consume pulses and other plant-based proteins. Our continued reliance on their imports has seriously affected our self-reliance in proteins and edible oils while also landing us in a fertilizer trap. This can be easily reversed by restoring legume-based crop rotations to reduce urea dependence and enhance protein nutrition, reduce malnutrition, and increase nutritional security. Crop and livestock farming are ecologically interconnected in the sense that the wastes of one become the resource for the other. Crop farming with waste are also used as animal feed or composted. while the animal dung and urine, poultry droppings, etc. make excellent manure and safe fertilizer. An unanticipated effect of the green and white revolutions was that they moved in opposite directions, as crop farmers no longer rear cattle and must buy their manure or fertilizer, whereas livestock farmers have to buy grass or commercial feed. In the process, waste management becomes a common problem for both, leading to nitrogen or nutrient pollution. Fertilizer-based emissions of nitrous oxide and ammonia and many other emissions due to residue burning and dung cake burning cause air pollution, while water pollution is caused by the loss of nitrogenous or phosphatic and other compounds from fertilizers or manures to ground and surface water bodies. Further, nutrients form a huge proportion of wastewater that is lost either untreated or partly treated into our lakes and rivers, causing water pollution and eutrophication, adversely affecting their ecosystem services such as livelihoods of fishermen or others, depending on tourism, etc. Therefore, our current system of agriculture and waste management are unsustainable both economically and ecologically. It is possible to change this scenario by improving both input and output management of nutrients to complement the ongoing efforts of the national government towards natural farming. First, legume-based cropping systems. As I said, leguminous crops including pulses and oilseed legumes have natural capability to fix atmospheric nitrogen. They can not only survive without nitrogenous fertilizers but leave behind enough for the next crop. For over 10,000 years, farmers perfected legume-based crop rotations to grow cereals and other crops. This can be restored. This also ensures that crop diversification enhances sustainable agriculture in both economic and ecological terms, but it can help if government procurement can be diversified beyond rice, wheat and sugarcane to include pulses and oil seeds in order to boost crop diversification by the farmers. In other words, procurement diversification can be a catalyst for crop diversification by farmers. Secondly, livestock and waste management. Too many nutrients are wasted as pollutants due to the disconnect between green and white revolutions. They also hamper blue revolution due to water pollution and eutrophication. Wastewater and solid waste are also important sources of nutrients, but our current capacity of their recovery and recycling is barely 20%. Technologies and practices are available for recovering and recycling livestock waste, crop waste, and other solid and liquid wastes, especially of organic origin, but they are not currently practiced due to lack of administrative commitment or investment, or at times even enabling policy support or budgetary incentives. In the process, out of 65,250 metric tons of nutrients contained in over 150 billion liters of wastewater produced every day in India, more than 50,000 metric tons are lost every day, close to 80%. Our average daily fertilizer consumption is 137,000 metric tons, 40% of which can be saved if we recovered and recycled all the recoverable nutrients from wastewater. Similarly, if we recycle all the manure which is produced at the rate of 15 kg per animal per day by our 200 million cattle, its 5% NPK composition of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium amounts to 150,000 metric tons, which is far more than our entire fertilizer consumption in India. To add to this, about 3% of nutrients are lost from 15 to 20 liters of cattle urine per animal per day, which gives another 120,000 metric tons. In other words, our total availability of reusable nutrients from all manures and wastewater is 335,000 metric tons, which is 60% more than our daily fertilizer consumption. Even if half of this recovery and recycling potential is realized, we will not need any fertilizer even in the current unsustainable cropping systems. If legume-based multi-cropping and intercropping are fully implemented, they can further reduce fertilizer demand or manure demand, which means recycling even barely a quarter of our wasted nutrients, organic nutrients, are enough to completely replace our industrially manufactured fertilizers and save our government an expenditure of over 1 lakh crore per annum as fertilizer subsidy. Even if fertilizers are used to top up wherever specific nutrient deficiencies are found, after implementing the above measures, they would bear negligible cost and they would also have negligible environmental impact in terms of causing any pollution. So the best part of recycling nutrients, therefore, is that it also saves us from both air and water pollution, prevent eutrophication, improves economic yields from blue revolution. Most importantly, together, these measures can hugely help us in tackling the role of nitrogen or nutrients in the triple planetary crisis.
It came to you in our program Science Talk, produced by Dilip. This program came to you from Akashvani, Delhi.